Hello, here I am back for the fourth video in this series on the Medallion vintage collar. So I was wanting to figure out how to make this third round, the round with lots of rings, and what was important to me also was to respect the original design and stay as close as possible to the original design. But I was having problems mostly here in between the medallions, in between the scallops, making it fit. And as I explained in the previous video, in the second round I changed it here at this spot. I made some modifications. So I had to modify also what I was going to do on the final round here with this, the round with all the rings. There is still going to be a little bit of overlapping of those rings. I didn't change that. I didn't change the size because I wanted it to look as much like the original as possible. And I decided a little bit of overlapping was okay. And also what was important to me was to keep here the arrangement, as you can see, in between the scallops, which is here, the arrangement of those three small rings. So that's what I've done. I still have three small rings here. They just worked out slightly differently because, of course, I've removed that piece here. On my previous round. This is where I made a modification. Anyway, enough talking, let's get working. I'm going to show you how to make this round. So you want to start with a shuttle as full as possible, a very full shuttle, and in fact you're not going to have enough thread to make the whole round because it's all rings and it's all coming from the shuttle, of course, so you will have to refill your shuttle partway through this round. I'm going to add a link to a video that shows how to add thread when you're working with just one shuttle. So I'm going to leave a little bit of threads to be able to sew that end in afterwards. And we are going to join. You want to make sure you're facing front. And we're going to join in the first picot here by just pulling a loop and passing your shuttle through it. And now we're going to start with all those rings. They are made of 7 picots separated by 2 stitches. And you want to leave, actually, I didn't do that. You want to leave a little bit, sort of 1-2 millimeters, so that it's not completely stuck onto the picot when you're starting work. I don't know if you can see what I mean here. There's a little bit of a gap instead of pulling it right against it like this. That gives a little bit more space for the rings to spread out. So 2 stitches, 1 picot, 2 stitches, 2 picots, 2 stitches, 3, 2 stitches, 4, 2 stitches, 5, 2 stitches, 6, 2 stitches, 7, and 2 stitches. Close the ring. And we're going to make 3 of these rings. So we join into the next picot. And as I've explained before, I'm just leaving a little bit of gap just here, a little bit. Like this. So the second ring, I've forgotten to leave my little gap. Leave a little gap. And I am joining on the first picot. Like this. And then carry on with the next 6 picots separated by 2 stitches. Five, 6, and 7. 2 stitches to complete the ring and close the ring. And repeat again. Join to the next picot. Like this. And make the next ring. Leave a tiny gap again. 2 picots, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and close the ring. And now we join to the next picot, and the next ring is going to be a small ring. So the small rings only have 3 picots on them, separated by 2 stitches again. So 2 stitches join to the previous ring, 2 stitches, a picot, 2 stitches, a picot, and 2 stitches. Close the ring. And then we join to the next picot. Now we're going to repeat the large rings. We're going to have 5 of them. Two stitches and join. Two stitches and then 6 more picots separated by 2 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2 more stitches to complete the ring. And join to the next picot. And we're repeating again. Another large ring. Four, 5 picots, 6, and 7. And close the ring. Join to the next picot and repeat. Two stitches and join, and then 6 more picots separated by 2 stitches. Five. It's the 6th picot and 7. And close the ring. Join to the next picot. So that's 4 picots, 5, 6, 7, close the ring and join to the next picot. And now we're doing the last of the large rings on the longer chain. So that's the 5th large ring. And the next ones are going to be small rings. So that's 2 picots, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and close the ring. And join to the next picot. And now we're making a small ring. And this time I'm going to start it right at the base near the picot. 2 stitches, join, 2 stitches, a picot, 2 stitches, a picot, and close. So we've done the 5 rings and now the small ring, and we join to the next picot, and then we're doing 2 more large rings. So 2 more large rings, 2 stitches and join to the small ring, and then 6 small picots to complete the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and oh sorry, 6 more, wasn't it? Let's count again. 1 at the join, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's right. And close the ring. One more. One more large ring. 2 stitches and join. 2 stitches and 6 more picots to complete the ring. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and close the ring. Okay, so I actually made a mistake in my first demonstration of how to work the space here in between the medallions on the very first one I made. So I've had to cut that off the film and I'm starting again. But of course I've tatted along now, so I'm on my 3rd repeat. But now we just imagine you are where we started. So we made 3 rings, a small ring, 5 rings, a small rings, 2 rings. And that's where we are now. And I'm going to do the demonstration again. So here we are, 2 rings, small rings, 5 rings, small rings, 2 rings, and we're ready to do the piece here that's in between the medallions. We're joining to the next picot of the chain, and I'm not having any gaps now because we're going to make some small rings, And this is where I've modified from the pattern, so it's not as it's written in the book at the moment. So 2 stitches and join, 2 stitches, a picot, 2 stitches, a picot, 2 stitches, and close the small ring. So that's the first small ring. And it was important to me to try to keep as close to the original pattern as possible. So here you see that in that space they've joined 3 small rings together, so I wanted to keep that, although they joined slightly differently. So that's the first small ring. We're going to join to the next picot. And we're going to make the next small ring. Again, no gaps at the base at all. 2 stitches, join to the previous small ring. 2 stitches. And this picot is going to be just a tiny bit longer than the ones I normally make, just a little bit really. You can see the difference between this one and that one, just a tiny bit longer. It's just to try to make it visually more symmetrical here in that corner. And another one that is also slightly, ever so slightly longer, like this. And 2 stitches and close the ring. And we're joining to the next picot. Like this, with no gap. And now I'm going to keep the thread behind, and I want to join the next picot of the ring to this picot of the chain. So I'm going to go through the picot of the chain first, then the picot on the ring, grab the thread behind, and pass my shuttle through it. Like this. And we're going to do it again. So I'm going to leave the thread behind, and I'm going to join the next picot of the chain, and then through the last 3 picot of the previous small ring, grab the thread behind, pass it through, and pass your shuttle through it. Like this. And now we're going to make the third small ring. So 2 stitches, and join where you've joined the previous 2 small rings together. Join in the same place. Join here, 2 more stitches, and then complete the small ring as normal. So a picot, 2 stitches, a picot, and 2 more stitches, and close the ring. So that's how it fills that space here between the scallops and between the medallions. And we're ready to continue with the large rings. So there's 2 more large rings on this chain. Now I'm starting to leave a little gap at the base again, just 1 or 2, couple of millimeters. 2 stitches, join to the previous small ring. 2 stitches, and 6 more picots separated by 2 stitches to complete this ring. So that's 2, 3, 4 picots, 5, 6, and close the ring. Now we make 1 more large ring. Oops. Then you join to the next picot. and make the next large ring. Two stitches joined to the previous ring, 2 stitches, and 6 small picots separated by 2 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Close the ring. And join to the next picot. Now I'm leaving no gap because I'm making a small ring, the small ring which is at the base between the chains. Two stitches and join. 2 stitches, a picot, 2 stitches, a picot, and 2 more stitches. And join to the next picot. And now you're ready to make the next 5 rings that are over the longer chain. And you can see now by making those rings, all those rings, that it's starting to make the collar curve. Actually, it's starting to give it the right shape. So it's 2 large rings, a small ring in between the 2 chains, 5 rings, a small ring in between the 2 chains, 2 rings, and then you make that special corner piece there with the 3 small rings. I'm going to let you carry on a bit by yourself, and I'll meet you at the end. No, not quite at the end yet, but I thought I should show you a couple of things. As you see, I'm further along now, and what I wanted to show you is that here, you can see the rings here, they frill a little bit, you know, because they're quite tight. There's lots of rings there, and you can see how it frills a little bit. But I just wanted to show you that on this side I pressed my collar lightly, and you can see how nicely the rings all lie flat, and it's not a problem. So that's all it needs. Once you've finished, they'll fall nicely into place once you press them a little bit. And the second thing I thought I might just as well show you, although I've added a link to a video that shows how to add new thread when you run out, when you're working with just one shuttle. I thought, since I've run out again, I think it's probably my 4th time perhaps refilling my shuttle, I thought I might as well show you how to do it. So here's the end of my last bobbin. And here is my shuttle refilled. So what I'm going to do is simply place the new thread on top of my work like this. So this is my old thread, this is my new thread is on top, and I'm going to wrap around my hand with both the thread that's coming from the shuttle and the old thread, and I'm going to make the first stitch with those 2 threads together, and that's going to secure them together. Hang on, I'm going to put the old thread on top like this. So we're making the first half stitch, and I'm doing the 4th ring here of the 5 rings on the long chain. So I'm leaving, it's a bit harder to see because I've got extra threads in there, but I'm leaving that little 2mm gap again. So that's the first half stitch and the second half stitch. And yes, that stitch is going to be a little bit bigger than your other ones because it's made with 2 threads, but it's not going to be very visible once you're finished. So now I'm removing the extra thread from around my hand, and that's my old thread. I'm putting them both below here underneath the thread that's wrapped around my hand, and get my scissors going to cut them short like this, and now I'm going to tat over the ends for a few stitches. I try to pull these stitches a little bit tighter so they don't appear too much bigger. So that's 2 stitches. Oh no. So that's 2 stitches, and now the join. So although the stitches will be a little bit bigger because now I'm tatting over the ends, over 2 ends at the same time, once it's completed, it's not going to be very noticeable. So 1, 2 stitches, and a picot. And another 2 stitches. That's the second. And 1 more picot. And I'll just make the second stitch again as well. So that should be plenty to secure my ends. Give them a little tug and cut them right against the tatting. I'm going to feed a bit more thread into my ring and complete the ring. So now I have 3 picots, so I want to do 4 more picots. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and close the ring. And join to the next picot. Leaving that little 2mm gap again. And now I'm ready to do the 5th one on the long chain. So you can see, yes, it is a little bit thicker here on the left side, but I don't think it's going to be very visible when you complete your work. I don't think you'll notice where you've changed threads. So that's one way to add new thread. So you're ready to carry on now with your shuttle full of thread. I'll meet you again near the end. After all those rings, here I am at the very last one. So I'm going to complete this with you. So you know how here all the way along we had only two rings on the shorter chain? Well, at the beginning and at the end there are 3. So let's make the very last one, and again I'm going to use a magic loop to hide my end in the last ring. So 2 stitches and join, 2 stitches, and I'm gonna make 2, 3, 4 of the picots before inserting the magic loop. So that's 3, 4 picots, and I'm going to insert the magic loop here with the knot facing left. They're hard to see because they're so fine. And I'm going to complete the ring. It can be a little bit more difficult to use magic loops in rings because of the way they are closed at the base. It squashes the stitches a little bit at the end, so it can be a little bit harder to pull them in. So we have to be careful to not make the last stitches too tight. 4, 5th picot, 2 stitches, 1 2 3 4 5, 6, and the 7th picot. Seventh picot, and one more stitch, and I'm going to be careful not to do that too tight, so fairly loose. Pull the magic loop out of the way for the very last half stitch, like this, and close the last ring. Like this, and make that last join in the picot. And I think I might, if I'm hiding it in there, I'm going to have to pull that through there again. I think that's okay. Probably would have been better to, I've decided to wrap it around the last one again just to make it more secure. So I've just looped it around once more. Probably would have been better, in fact, to have a magic loop in this chain rather than in the last ring. But as often is the case, I forgot to put one in that chain on the previous round. But that's all right. So we're going to cut the thread and pull it through with the magic loop. So like this, make sure it's caught in with the magic loop, and then I open it up and pull through. And yes, it's absolutely fine. It went in perfectly. So you just have to be careful that you don't make your last stitches too tight. So as you can see here, I've got a tiny little extra twirl around my bare thread, but I don't think that's very visible. So cut this close to the work. And we're done with the bottom part of the collar. I think it's looking good. I'm happy with that. I hope you're happy with yours. And now I'll start work figuring out the neckline for the next video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.